Hi Neurospices, welcome back to Late Diagnosed. Today I'm going to ask a few questions of myself. I'll put them here and then I'll answer them. My childhood home, I had a few. The ones that I remember were growing up in Wollongong and then also my childhood in Papua New Guinea. The home that I had in Wollongong was a typical 60s red brick home. We had a backyard with a cubby house and a tree house. We had lots of friends in the street that we used to play with. Back in the 80s, we used to get outside and play. There was certainly not what it is now with loads of screen time, so that was a lot of fun. Favourite activities and hobbies as a child? Well, probably a favourite activity was just getting outside and playing. I used to love make-believe. I really did enjoy being creative, and I played piano, and although I wasn't a fan of practicing, Mum had me in a really good routine, and so I used to practice and I was learning, and I did enjoy that as well. Mostly I liked getting out with friends. On a Saturday we used to go to the local pool with all of our friends and pretty much stay there the entire day and then ride home. But other than that, we were playing on the street with friends and out riding bikes and getting on our roller skates and sometimes even going up to the local primary school, which sat up behind our home, and going and playing on the monkey bars or just hanging out with friends and playing, really. I used to have a really active imagination, so I would love playing lots of different games that I would make up. Some of my closest friends growing up, because my sister and I are so close in age and I was in the same year as her in school, we often shared the same friends. So the friends that we had were kids in our street, and then also kids from school. I wouldn't say, actually, looking back, that I was very close to anyone in particular. There probably was another girl in high school that I felt very close to, but that relationship, because I progressed into motherhood and she didn't really stay with me. Whereas with my sister's friendships, they're still there to this day. That's a really good question. I think probably I've already outlined, because I didn't have a lot of close friends, that I did feel different, and I felt, I don't feel like they treated me any differently, but I do feel like my own expectations of myself were so incredibly high that if I didn't reach or meet those expectations that I'd placed on myself, that I was somehow a failure. So that certainly was evident to me very early on. School for me, primary school was good. I had a fairly good experience. I think I probably more enjoyed the creative side of things. So at the end of the year we would have a play. Each class level would have a play that they would put on, and a couple of times I was the lead in the play and other times I was, other characters or whatever, and I really did enjoy that. I remember in grade 2 I played the lead. I can't even remember what the play was, but I think I sang in it, and I remember getting praise from other people for that, feeling really good about that. So that was kind of cool, but I did enjoy that. My teacher in year 6, Mrs. Maxwell, I still remember her. She noted that I would not necessarily attempt too many new things. I don't know whether she noticed it because I was afraid of failing and so I wouldn't attempt them, or whether she just noticed that I would sit back and not necessarily ask the questions. And I remember her having a conversation with me at the end of year 6, telling me, that when I moved into high school that I would have to start asking questions if I didn't understand something. And that stuck with me, and I did that. So thank you, Mrs. Maxwell. Interesting about the distraction question. I remember in Well, it would have been school when we lived in Papua New Guinea, so it would have been kindergarten or grade 1, and I remember getting easily distracted. I remember asking to go to the bathroom one time, and where where we were was kind of, well, I don't know the exact location of it, but in the Highlands somewhere in a jungle location, and where the bathroom was compared to the classroom, it was outdoors. And I remember being distracted by butterflies and getting lost, and not as in lost physically, lost mentally, and coming back to the classroom, having forgotten to go to the bathroom and putting my hand up to go back to the bathroom, and the teacher telling me that I'd just been so I couldn't go, and me having to hold on. So yeah, I definitely did get distracted as a kid. Memorable family traditions. The one that sticks out the most to me is Friday night movie night. So we would all huddle together on the lounge, and there'd be a good movie playing, not like now, and we would have a packet of Violet Crumbles that we would all share amongst us, and we would sit and watch the movie. I don't remember much about the actual movies and what was playing, but I do remember that that was always something that we looked forward to, and Friday nights were always really good fun to do that. I don't ever remember feeling anxious or overwhelmed in family celebrations or things. I was used to family coming around, and we had people living with us. Mum and Dad took in boarders and people that lived with us. So there was always other people around. And as an outgoing child, I didn't really feel overwhelmed at all in those kinds of situations. Interestingly, I saw recently an analogy, I guess, of two glasses, how ADHD presents differently in childhood and autism than it does as an adult, and it really boils down to your capacity. So as a kid, I guess I had a greater capacity for all of the things that happened around me. As an adult, and as life and responsibility increased, and also as my tolerance decreased, my capacity has lessened. And so I think I've found that that's probably the reason why I'm finding life a little bit difficult, more difficult now, post-diagnosis, not because of the actual diagnosis, because that's always been there, it's just now got a name, but because life happens, and it's really, really hard at times to cope with it. And when you've experienced burnout after burnout, and life becomes very, very difficult to manage, and you feel like you've got to try and explain yourself in a way that someone will finally understand you, that becomes very mentally taxing. And so it actually fills your cup up far quicker than it would for someone who's neurotypical. But then also my cup is a much smaller size. So I've found that symptomally, I find life a little bit more difficult now, and especially now that I'm unmasking. So even the term, high functioning autism, it's basically a description of someone who's masking. That's all it is. So someone who appears neurotypical but is autistic, they're really, really good at masking. But there's a cost to that. And the cost is exhaustion, both mentally and physically. And oftentimes they will come down with random illnesses that are just, no one can understand what's actually going on. And I think probably too, with women my age, that some of that is put down to menopause. So, the doctor will say, oh, well, you're exhausted. It's probably just hormonal. You've got to try this, you've got to try that, when in fact it is actually that my cup is much smaller than someone who's neurotypical, and so the normal stressors of life affect me deeper and affect me quicker than they would for someone else. It's not that we don't all experience overwhelm at times, it's just that as someone who's neurodivergent, I'm basically on the edge all the time, because not only do I have to suppress how I would normally react to something so that the people around me can feel comfortable, but I also have to cope with the after effects of all of that. So another example of that is I work part-time, and on my day off, it happened to be after an office day. So in the office, around all of the noise, all of the interruptions, all of the things that I found very, very difficult to deal with, didn't really understand why. Thank God for COVID and working from home. So very, very grateful for that, and certainly not having to work in the office a lot. But the day after my office day was my home day, and I was not able to relax. I was not able to do any of the things for the reasons that I actually started working part-time, because I was just so exhausted and didn't really understand why. Well, now I understand why, and now I have flexible work arrangements so that I can work from home all the time and control my environment, and that has been extremely helpful.